Hari Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Swami Jyotirmayananda Society, our journey to self realization. Please subscribe for the mystical meanings and to enjoy daily satsang. We are currently exploring the book The Mystery of the Soul, Katha Upanishad. Commentary is by Worshipful Swami Jyotirmayananda Maharaj, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. We are on chapter 2, section 1, mantra number 14. The Brihad Aranyak Upanishad declares all is dear for the sake of the self. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Even the illusion of discovering happiness in an object is sustained by the inward urge to discover the self, which is the embodiment of bliss. Bliss in for the self is known as bhuma, unbounded bliss. Objects are loved for the sake of the self. They are not loved for their own sake. An aspirant endowed with subtle reasoning examines the pleasures of the senses and discovers that they are nothing but modifications of pain, because they are twin brothers, pleasure and pain. If pleasure is coming, pain is waiting around the corner, and if pain is coming, eventually pleasure is also going to show up. It's all timing. This too shall pass, and alternating. That's how the cycle goes. That which did not exist in the beginning and will not exist after a certain duration of time is illusory, even though it appears to exist. By common sense and reasoning, what wasn't there and will not be is only an appearance, much like a mirage. All pleasures of the world are dependent upon transient objects which did not exist in the beginning and will not exist in the end. They are simply modifications of form and changes. This includes our own body. Think about it. You were born as a pocket size edition, then you grew to be a child, then a youth, then a middle age, then old age, and then death and new birth. So the cycle will continue on and on. So this is not permanency. You can only call stability for what does not change. And the only thing that doesn't change is your consciousness or your Atma, which is awake during all three states: waking, dream, deep sleep. And for the enlightened ones, there is a fourth state called the Turiya, which transcends time and space. Even there, that self is prevalent, present. So, how can supreme bliss be experienced through the passing objects of the world? So, advanced sages and saints are not attracted to Maya, they have pulled themselves away. The soul traverses various planes in this world of illusion and develops varying capacities of mind and senses in order to experience pleasure. A celestial being, a Gandharva, for example, can experience 100 times more pleasure than an ideal human being at the highest state of prosperity, health, and divine being from the next plane higher than the Gandharva plane can experience 100 times more than a Gandharva. So, what the scripture Upanishad is trying to tell you is that pleasure and these experiences of pain and pleasure are dependent on the capacity and in which realms of the world system they are in. 1 unit of human happiness is 100 units of human happiness is 1 unit of Gandharva. So, what they can experience in a fraction, it will take us a long time to get there. And this keeps on going, but ultimately, they all come down once the pleasure is over and they go through the embodiments, the circle of life and death. So this process continues until one ascends to the plane of Hiranyagarbha and the cosmic mind. But even this bliss, enjoyed through the utmost expansion of the mind, is but a drop in the ocean of bliss of the self. Therefore, the wise sages and saints, and even Nachiketa, remember, this scripture is the mystery of the soul. Nachiketa is being emphatic. He wants to understand the mystery of the soul. All temptations were rejected. Heavenly nymphs, apsaras, wealth, long life, all the luxuries he gave up to understand this mystery. Such is the glory of the soul. Therefore, how can this bliss be encompassed within the limits of mental concepts and verbal expressions? It transcends all those things. So, every human being exists to discover the bliss of the self. That is our inheritance. We should use it, we should learn to do it properly. Otherwise, this human body is a rare opportunity and we waste it. Due to ignorance, the human being turns to the objects for fulfilling his deep rooted urge. What is that urge? It is there, but it is for the self, but one is trying to find it in the objects. Therefore, he is constantly frustrated in his efforts. Happiness, joy, bliss eludes you. From one object to the other, we run. Even during frustrations and sorrowful developments, he maintains his life on the bliss of the self at all times. So it's the bliss coming from within that keeps us going during pleasure, pain, and the various conditions of life. Without the bliss of the self, who could even live for a single moment? That is the profundity of this self. Now, from the point of view of a seeker, there arises a serious question. How can the self be realized since it is beyond all expressions of mind and speech? Will the self shine forth by itself? What is the nature of experiencing the self? Comprehending this doubt in the mind of Nachiketa, Lord Yama explains the art of self realization in the following mantra, which is mantra number 15. So, as you can see, the channel we are focusing in on is the journey to self-realization. So if you are a serious aspirant, this becomes a wonderful place for all of us to grow, expand, learn, and eventually experience the self in this very life. Very much possible, because the enlightened sages have done it and they are transferring this knowledge to all of us. But we have to have patience, dedication, diligence, and faith. So, mantra number 15, the Yama continues to enlighten Nachiketa. There the sun does not shine, nor the moon, nor the stars. Even the lightning flashes do not shine, much less fire. When the self shines, all these shine after it. It illumines by its own light, self effulgent. The self is the light of all the lights. During the day, a person is able to see objects by the light of the sun. During the night, he can see the objects in the light of the moon and the stars. During a cloudy night, the lightning flashes enable a person to see things temporarily. Otherwise, he uses lamps and other artificial means of illumination to see things. But during his dream, all these forms of illumination are lacking, and yet he sees various objects, different colors, hears sounds, goes through experiences. He sees them in the light of the self. The self alone does its magic, but you are sleeping. You don't even know you exist. You've forgotten about your home, your office, your kids, your possessions. See, how Mother Nature works. Every day they are giving us this practical dose. But due to ignorance and illusion, we wake up and we discard that dream as if nothing happened. We don't ponder over the mystery of how could we see all these colors, shapes, sounds, and experiences without any external light. So, even from an esoteric point of view, the sun is symbolic of intellect, the moon of the mind, and the stars and lightning are the symbols of the senses. Fire is symbolic of speech and includes all other organs of action. The means of this mantra, the deeper meaning, is that the self cannot be grasped by the organs of action, nor can it be perceived by the realm of the senses. It is impossible for the mind to reveal the self through its finite thought processes. And this is where a lot of people make mistake. They want to understand what does self-realization look like. They want to hear with their ears. They want the person to speak from his voice. But when the senses and the mind itself are limited, how can you express the unlimited through limited? How can you fill an ocean into a drop? The other way, it's okay. A drop can fill into the ocean, but the ocean cannot be contained inside a drop. And that is what happens. Enlightenment is an experience of expansion of bliss, bhuma, that cannot be contained into these limited instruments that we have been given of senses, mind, intellect, etc. So, in order to perceive an object in the world, the mind flows through a sense channel and assumes the form of that object. So, we will continue this in tomorrow's satsang. Very deep and exciting shlokas for serious aspirants, because that is the journey to self realization. That is what everybody, every serious aspirant will have to go through. Swami Nikhilananda, Hari Om Tat Sat. I will see you tomorrow.